ridiculous.
Okay, so you brought up Wednesday's issue.
Yeah.
The environment.
Right.
Joel Hunter, Tony Campolo, et al. Would tell you we've got to be caring about the environment. Maybe even more that they're still pro-life, mind you, but we need to be focusing on the environment.
Well, I have not heard what Tony Campolo has said recently, but I will say this, that anybody who thinks there's moral equivalency to chopping down a sycamore tree and ripping the face off an unborn child through an act of abortion, anybody who thinks those two are morally equivalent really needs to have their moral reasoning examined. All right, but if we don't save the planet,
everybody will die.
Well, and if we don't save humans, there'll be nobody to populate the planet. I mean, we can play that game with them if we want, but this idea that we save the planet, we can argue whether that is really a good way to go. I don't personally believe we can destroy it, but if people want to throw that out there, I come back to this. How does it follow that because we have a stewardship duty to protect the earth, a duty I would agree with, that we therefore should not worry about the deliberate unjust killing of human beings? See, it's an attempt to distract the pro-life movement from its cause. And it's unfair for these people to insist that pro-lifers broaden their focus, just like it would be unfair to insist that the National Cancer Institute broaden its focus.
All right, I'm keeping that line right there. That's kind of the line right there, because that's what we're hearing these days.
Yeah.
And this is my favorite part: the disingenuousness of those people who say, you one issue, you pro-lifer evangelicals. If you keep acting like that, people aren't going to believe in Jesus because of you. And now they've leapt out of the political closet.
Right.
And they're saying it's about the environment, it's about urban issues, and you've got to vote this way.
Well, it's Brian McLaren telling us that we are too involved in politics, those of us on the religious right. Now he's endorsed Barack Obama. Yeah.
Somebody should check in. I mean, he's just flat out telling people who to vote for.
Well, Brian McLaren, first of all, only God can judge where he is in terms of his soul, but I will tell you this, the theology he peddles is not biblical. And this idea that Christians shouldn't be involved in politics is nonsense. Of course we should. Christianity should impact all of our lives. Our worldview should impact our voting, our involvement in culture to make it a more just society. It should impact how we view human beings, how we work. This idea that we can dice up our Christianity and throw politics off to the side while we have this exclusive religious view is striking me almost.
But they don't even do that.
Well, they don't say that, but that's the irony.
Part
they're really leftists, just trying to disarm the religious right, so to speak.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the distinction would be between heretical theology and judging the person's soul. Obviously, God only judges the person's soul, but if he holds to heresy, we are more than concerned. For Brian McLaren's soul.
And we need to point that out. I'm simply saying, ultimately, I don't know where he stands, but I can very clearly point out that certain teachings are not in accord with Scripture.
That's where he stands.
Yeah.
If he's a heretic, heretics...
He should be called that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, talking right now with Scott Klusendorf, ProLifeTraining.com. Travels all over the country speaking, debating folks.
Yes, absolutely. And this year alone did 3 debates with Nadine Strawson, president of the ACLU. We did one at Grand Valley State University. We did one at Malone College in Canton. Did one out at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Okay, this isn't as big as the life issue with Nadine. But would you please get the ACLU to check into PBS and the Wayne Dyer connection? There's got to be a separation clause that we could impose
I'll work
on this.
On that.
That ridiculous thing that PBS is promoting with Wayne Dyer makes me bonkers.
There you go.
It's Taoism that he's peddling.
Well, you know what? As they say, when it comes to the political and social left, science is what they decide suits them at the moment.
All right. Scott Klusendorf, pastors right now, being a pro-life pastor, at best, you are going to see people preaching on this issue in January.
And Catholics in October.
And why do they do it?
That's Respect Life Month.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much it.
That's it.
Do you think pastors should be doing more?
I wish they do that much. To be honest with you, my own experience is that Sanctity of Human Life Sunday is a non-issue in most of our evangelical, so-called seeker-friendly churches. And what they'll do is maybe say a brief thing about the local crisis pregnancy center and, hey, you might want to look into supporting
Bring somebody up for their testimony.
That's right. But in terms of doing the 4 things a church has got to do,
which
and
are
the 4 things that a pastor must do, they're not doing them. The 4 things are, number 1, the pastor has got to preach the biblical foundation for human value, that we are valuable because we bear the image of our Creator. And he needs to make that point. We're not valuable for what we do functionally, the way we are told in the secular culture. We're not valuable because we have a certain level of self-awareness or the ability to see ourselves existing over time. We're valuable for who we are, creatures who bear the image of our Maker. Secondly, though, and here's where the breakdown really happens, Todd, even if you come across a church where they will preach on the sanctity of human life, almost nowhere do you have pastors doing the second thing, which is equipping their people to engage the culture. In other words, we're not arming Christians with the arguments that are needed to defend the pro-life message.
We're not saying go out and shoot abortion doctors, but come on, let's at least be prepared to engage at the dinner table.
It's 1 Peter 3:15. Always be ready to give an answer for the hope that lies within you. And we're to do that graciously, but we're to do it incisively. I love the fact that guys get up there and preach about the biblical exposition supporting the sanctity of life. But come on, how does that work with the guy around the water cooler at work who hadn't been to church in 20 years? You know, how about helping Christians communicate that worldview in a secular marketplace? We're not doing that. Christians need to know how to show that scientifically the unborn are distinct, living, and whole human beings, and philosophically they need to demonstrate that there's no essential difference between the embryos they once were and the adults they are today, that differences of size, level of development, environment, degree of dependency don't matter, such that we can say you can kill them then, but not now.
All right, number three.
Number three, we need to have pastors who, instead of running from the abortion issue, restore hope to those wounded by abortion by preaching a cross-centered gospel. Todd, when we refuse to talk about abortion, we don't spare women and men who've sinned in that issue, men by encouraging women to abort. We don't spare them guilt. We spare them healing, because unconfessed sin is keeping them out of full
fellowship. Boy, would I love to spend time on that. All right, but number four.
Number four, we need pastors who confront their fears. They're so afraid they'll drive people away from the gospel. First of all...
No, see, you keep saying the gospel.
Yeah.
Those guys probably aren't preaching the gospel.
Well,
it's from the rules, from the attendance.
I understand that, but here's the point. Whose job is it to do evangelism? Do we sell the gospel, or does God draw his through the accurate preaching of the word?
Oh, it's got to be the preaching. All right. You can visit his website, prolifetraining.com. Got to tell you, we're losing sight of this issue, in my opinion. Babies. Guess what? In my opinion, more important than the economy. I know. Call me radical.
How you are.
Call me kooky. Ray, you ready to go fishing, sir?
I call it sanity. I call it fear of God. The whole issue makes me sick that anyone would talk about the economy and vote for a man who advocates the murder of children. Makes me mad.
Here's a question to consider. Whatever your personal wealth happens to be, whatever your house or your investments or your whatever little trinkets and baubles that you have, would you be willing for them all to crash and we all basically live in abstract poverty for the rest of our days, as long as 4,400 babies aren't being killed every day? There's some dinner talk for you.